A dusty wind howls through the outpost in the northern sector of Burkina Faso. Soldiers stand in formation, their uniforms faded, their faces hard. They've been waiting 3 months for this shipment. A convoy of 3 heavy trucks rumbles through the gates, carrying what the Ministry of Defense promised would be state-of-the-art ballistic vests and night vision gear. Ibrahim Traoré stands quietly by the command tent, watching the dust settle. He isn't just here for a photo op. He's here to inspect the goods himself. The first driver hops out, handing a clipboard to the base commander. The paperwork looks perfect. Official stamps, premium price tags, expedited shipping labels. But as the soldiers pry open the first wooden crate, the mood shifts instantly. Traoré steps forward. He reaches into the crate and pulls out a tactical vest. It feels light. Too light. He runs his hand over the ceramic plate insert. It crumbles under his thumb. This isn't military protection. It's cheap. Expired surplus gear painted to look new. He looks at the young soldiers, watching him, men who risk their lives daily, and realizes they were about to be sent into battle wearing costumes. Hey! Silence falls over the base, heavy and dangerous. This isn't just incompetence. It's a death sentence sold to the highest bidder. This is where the story truly begins. Before we dive in, what time is it where you are? Which country are you watching from? Leave a comment and let me know. And please hit that like button and subscribe. Budget reports he requested weeks ago. According to the file, the Ministry of Defense paid $12 million for this shipment to a top-tier European supplier. He looks back at the rotting gear. Maybe $50,000 worth of junk at best. The rest of the money, over $11 million, has vanished into thin air. He turns to the base commander and asks who signed off on the quality check in the capital. The commander hesitates, looking nervous. He whispers a name, Colonel Dio, the right-hand man of Defense Minister Kasem. Traoré knows Kasem. He's the man currently sitting in an errand-conditioned office in Ouagadougou, famous for his expensive suits and speeches about modernizing the army. Traoré thanks the commander, orders the trucks to be impounded, and climbs into his vehicle. The ride back to the capital is long, but his mind is racing. He starts connecting the dots. If this shipment is fake, what about the ammunition delivered last month? What about the fuel contracts? As he sits in the back of his armored SUV, he pulls up the logistics database on his tablet. He starts cross-referencing shipping dates with Minister Kasem's travel schedule. A pattern jumps out immediately. Every time a major contract was signed, Minister Kasem was out of the country on diplomatic business in a neighboring nation known for banking secrecy. Traoré decides to test the waters. He sends a simple casual text message to Minister Kasem. Shipment arrived in the north. Minor issues with packaging. We need to discuss the supplier. He waits. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Then a reply comes through. Standard delays, Mr. President. I'll have my office file a complaint with the vendor next week. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. The phrase hangs in the air like smoke. Traoré stares at the screen. The minister doesn't know Traoré is currently staring at a vest that crumbles like a cookie. The casual dismissal confirms everything. Kasem feels safe. He thinks he's untouchable, protected by layers of bureaucracy and rank. Traoré leans forward and taps the driver's shoulder, telling him to bypass the presidential palace. They aren't going home. They are going straight to the logistics headquarters unannounced, in the middle of the night. But as they approach the city limits, Traoré's phone buzzes again. It's an anonymous tip from a number he doesn't recognize. The message is short. Don't go to logistics. They know you're coming. The files are already being shredded. Traoré reads the message twice. Thumb hovers over the screen. If logistics is already shredding files, walking in there now is a waste of time. It would only tip them off that he knows the game. He taps the driver's shoulder and gives a new order. Turn around. Head to the safe house in Sector 4. The convoy executes a sharp U-turn. Tires screeching on the asphalt. Traoré isn't going to look for paper trails anymore. Paper burns. Digital footprints. Those are harder to erase. He makes a call on an encrypted line to Captain, a young cybersecurity specialist he recruited from the university months ago. Captain isn't military. He's a kid in a hoodie who understands code better than most generals understand strategy. Traoré gives him a single task. Follow the money from the vest contract. Ignore the official receipts. Find the wire transfers. They meet in a nondescript apartment building on the edge of the city. The room is dark, lit only by the blue glow of 3 monitors. Captain's fingers fly across the keyboard. He looks nervous. Hacking government accounts is treason technically, but Traoré stands behind him, arms crossed, waiting. It takes 20 minutes. Captain hits a final key and sits back, letting out a low whistle. It's a ghost. Network, sir, Captain says, pointing to the screen. The $12 million didn't go to the European manufacturer. It went to a holding company in a tax haven, sat there for 6 hours, and was then split into 50 smaller chunks. But look at this. Captain zooms in on one transaction, a consulting fee of $200,000, paid to a real estate firm in Dubai. The name on the property deed isn't Minister Kassim's. It's his wife's maiden name. Traoré stares at the screen. Sloppy, arrogant. They didn't think anyone would look this deep. He feels a cold rage building in his chest, while his soldiers are taping up their boots and praying their gear holds Kassim's. Family is buying luxury condos with blood money. But Traoré knows this isn't enough to arrest a defense minister. If he moves now, Kassim will claim it's a political witch hunt. He'll say his wife has her own money. The lawyers will tie this up for years. Traoré needs something undeniable. He needs to catch them in the act. The next morning, Traoré walks into his office at the presidential palace like nothing happened. He wears his usual fatigue uniform, his face calm. Minister Kassim is already there for the weekly briefing, sitting comfortably in a leather chair, checking his gold watch. He stands up, smiling, that polished politician smile. Mr. President, Kassim says, his voice smooth like oil. Looked into that shipment issue you texted about. Turns out it was just a bad batch. The supplier apologized. We're handling it. Traoré sits behind his desk, watching him. He sees the lie. In Kassim's eyes, the total lack of fear. Good, Traoré says, keeping his voice flat. We can't afford mistakes, Minister. The troops are getting restless. Kassim chuckles, waving his hand dismissively. Troops are always complaining, Ibrahim. It's the nature of the job. You worry too much. Let me handle the logistics. You focus on the big picture. The meeting ends. Kassim leaves confident he has smoothed things over. But as the door closes, Traoré doesn't go back to work. He stands up and walks to the bookshelf behind his desk. He runs his hand along the wood, then checks the underside of the meeting table. Nothing. He moves to the lamp on his desk. He unscrews the base. There it is, a tiny black listening device, blinking with a faint red light. Traoré freezes. His heart hammers against his ribs. This isn't just corruption anymore. This is a coup in the making. They are listening to his private meetings. They are tracking his moves. He realizes the anonymous text message last night might have been a test. Or maybe the leak is closer than he thought. He starts to reach for the bug to crush it, but his hand stops midair. A plan forms in his mind. A dangerous, risky plan. If they are listening, they believe everything they hear. He can feed them whatever reality he wants. He can make them walk right into a trap. Slowly screws the lamp base back together, leaving the bug active. He sits back in his chair and hits the intercom button for his assistant, making sure his voice is loud enough for the microphone to pick up. "Get the General of the Air Force on the line," Trey says, his voice feigning exhaustion. "I'm canceling the investigation into the logistics budget. It's too much of a headache. I'm going to the countryside for a week to rest. I need a break." He leans back, staring at the hidden microphone, waiting for the bait to be taken. But as he walks to the window, his personal phone buzzes in his pocket. It's not Kader. It's not the anonymous tipper. It's a photo sent from an unknown number. The image loads slowly. It's a picture of Kader, the young hacker, walking into his apartment building just 10 minutes ago. A red target circle is drawn digitally around his head. The caption below is 3 words. "We are watching." Traoré doesn't hesitate. He doesn't call the police, and he definitely doesn't call the frantic Minister of Interior. He knows the system is rotten to the core. If he calls it in, Kader disappears within the hour. He looks at his personal security detail. For men he served with, in the trenches, men who would take a bullet for him without asking why. He shows them the photo on his phone and gives a single command. "We go now." Civilians close, unmarked cars. They tear through the streets of Ouagadougou. Traoré is in the passenger seat, gripping an assault rifle that sits low between his knees. The city is bustling with market vendors and traffic, unaware that their president is speeding past them in a beat-up Toyota, racing against a hit squad. They reach Kader's apartment block just as a black SUV with tinted windows idles near the entrance. 2 men in dark suits are stepping out, adjusting jackets that clearly hide shoulder holsters. Traoré signals his driver. They don't slow down. They screech the car sideways between the hitmen and the door, creating a physical barrier. Traoré kicks his door open, weapon raised but not pointed. The message is clear. "Back off." The hitmen freeze. They recognize him. The shock on their faces is priceless. They expected a scared kid, not the president of the country, ready for a street fight. They slowly back away, hands raised, and retreat to their SUV. They peel off, tires smoking. Traoré runs inside. He finds Kader huddled in the corner of his room, clutching hard drive like it's a life raft. "Grab your stuff," Traoré says. "You're a ghost now." Safe in a military bunker hours later, Kader plugs the hard drive into a secure terminal. His hands are shaking, but his voice is steady. "I found why they tracked me, sir. I didn't just find the bank accounts. I found the communication logs." He pulls up a chat history. It's Minister Kasem talking to a foreign contact. The messages are chilling. They aren't just stealing money. They're selling intelligence, troop movements, patrol routes, ammunition supply levels, all being sold to insurgents in the north to keep the conflict going. The chaos creates the need for emergency spending, which Kasem then steals. It's a self-feeding loop of war and profit. Traoré feels sick. The soldiers dying in the north aren't just unlucky. They're being sacrificed to keep the cash flow running. And there's one more thing Kader adds. The vacation liu. Told the bug in your office, it worked. Kasem is planning a cleanup party tonight at his private ranch outside the city. He thinks you're gone. He's going to destroy the physical ledgers and move the hard cash he's been hoarding. This is the opening Traoré needs. But he can't raid a private residence without a warrant unless he wants a civil war. He needs proof of illegal activity happening inside that house before he kicks the door down. He needs eyes inside the lion's den. Traoré decides to play the long game. He officially leaves the capital in a presidential convoy with complete sirens and flashing lights heading south toward his home village. The news broadcasts report that the president is taking a well-deserved rest. But 5 miles out of the city, the convoy stops under a bridge. Traoré swaps vehicles, jumping into a nondescript delivery van, while the empty presidential convoy continues south. Traoré heads back north, circling toward Kasem's ranch. By nightfall, Traoré and his small team are lying prone in the tall grass on a ridge overlooking the minister's estate. It looks more like a resort than a ranch. Swimming pools, luxury cars, guards patrolling the perimeter with dogs. Through his binoculars, Traoré watches guests arriving. It's a who's who of the corrupt elite. Bankers, generals, contractors. They're laughing, drinking, celebrating their theft. Then a helicopter begins to descend on the private pad. The wind from the rotors flattens the grass around Traoré. He adjusts his focus. Who is important enough to fly in for a document shredding party? The door of the chopper opens. A man steps out. Traoré's breath catches in his throat. He lowers the binoculars, blinking, hoping his eyes are playing tricks on him, but they aren't. The man hugging Minister Kasem isn't a foreign agent. It isn't a banker. It is General DOP, the Chief of Staff of the Army. The man Traoré trusted to watch his back. The man who swore an oath to protect the nation yesterday morning. DOP is laughing, handing Kasem a briefcase that looks heavy. Traoré realizes the rot isn't just in the ministry. It's standing right next to him at the flag ceremonies. He is completely alone. If he orders a raid now, DOP's loyalists in the army might turn on him. It would be a bloodbath, but as he watches, he sees them walk into the main house and head toward the basement. The lights in the underground level flick on. They're going to the vault. Traoré checks his weapon. He looks at his 4 loyal men. They're outnumbered 20-1. The smart move is to retreat, gather evidence, and build a case. But Traoré knows that by morning that money and those documents will be ash. He taps his earpiece. No, backup coming, he whispers. We're going in quiet. We take the basement before they know we're here. He starts to crawl forward through the grass, cutting the wire fence. But just as they cross the perimeter, a flood light sweeps across the yard. It stops directly on them. A siren begins to wail, cutting through the night air like a scream. The element of surprise is gone. They haven't just been spotted. They've been invited into a killbox. The night erupts in chaos. Bullets chew up the dirt inches from Traoré's face. Most men would panic, freeze, or run. Traoré does none of those things. He rolls toward the cover of a stone retaining wall, his mind working faster than the gunfire. He realizes something crucial. The guards aren't maneuvering like trained soldiers. They're spraying bullets wildly. These are hired guns, private security paid to bully civilians, not fight a battle-hardened commando unit. They're fighting for a paycheck. Traoré is fighting for his country. That gives him the edge. Kill the lights! Traoré yells to his sharpshooter. A single shot rings out, shattering the floodlight. Darkness crashes back over the lawn. The sudden shift blinds the mercenaries. While they're blinking, trying to adjust their eyes, Traoré signals his team to move. They don't retreat. They charge straight at the house. It's a move so aggressive, so suicidal that the guards don't expect it. They expect fear. Traoré gives them fury. They breach the patio doors, shattering the glass. The transition is jarring. 1 second they are in the dirt and mud. The next they are sliding across polished marble floors in a room filled with expensive art and terrified socialites. The party guests, the bankers and corrupt officials dive under tables, spilling champagne worth more than a soldier's yearly salary. Traoré ignores them. He moves like a shark through water, heading straight for the heavy oak door that leads to the basement. His team stacks up. Traoré kicks the door. It holds. Reinforced. Steel disguised as wood. From the other side, he hears the distinct sound of a shredder running and the whoosh of a fire being lit. They are destroying the evidence. Blow it, Traoré orders. One of his men jams a small charge into the lock mechanism. They cover their ears. Boom! The door swings open, hanging off its hinges. Smoke pours out, not from the explosion, but from a metal trash can in the center of the room, where piles of documents are burning. Traoré steps through the smoke, weapon raised. The room is a high-tech command center. Screens line the walls. In the center, Minister Kasem is frantically shoving papers into the fire, his expensive suit ruined by sweat and soot. But General DOP is standing still. He's leaning against a desk, holding a satellite phone, looking incredibly calm, for a man with an assault rifle pointed at his chest. "It's over," Traoré says, his voice cutting through the noise. "Hands where I can see them." Kasem freezes, dropping a handful of cash into the flames. He looks terrified, but General DOP just smiles. He slowly lowers the phone and places it on the desk. He looks at Traoré like a teacher disappointed in a student. "You're good, Ibrahim, but you're thinking too small. You think this is about stealing a few $1 million for condos? You think we care about vests and fuel?" Traoré keeps his aim steady on DOP's heart. "I don't care what you think. You're under arrest for treason." DOP laughs. It's a dry, cold sound. "Treason? I'm saving this country from itself. Look at the screens, Captain." Traoré glances quickly at the wall of monitors. He expects to see bank accounts. Instead, he sees live drone feeds, not of the northern border, but of the capital city, specifically the presidential palace, the barracks, the radio station. "We aren't just stealing the budget," DOP explains, stepping forward. "We were building a war chest to fund a transition, a new government. My government. And thanks to you rushing here tonight, you've left the capital wide open." Traoré's blood runs cold. The ambush wasn't just to kill him. It was to draw him out. While he's here playing hero in a basement, the real move is happening back in the city. DOP checks his watch. "My units are moving on the palace right now. By sunrise, you won't be the president. You'll be a fugitive." Traoré realizes he's been outplayed. He has the evidence. He has the traitors, but he might have just lost the country. But then, a sound comes from the satellite phone left on the desk. A voice is speaking on the other end. Traoré recognizes the voice. It's a foreign accent. A diplomat from a Western superpower. "General, is it done? Is the asset secured?" Traoré realizes the scope of this betrayal is massive. DOP isn't working alone. He's being backed by foreign powers who want a puppet leader they can control. He looks at the burning documents, then at the live feeds of his capital being surrounded. He has seconds to make a choice. He can arrest these men and try to fight a legal battle while his government falls. Or he can do something that isn't in any rule book. He lowers his rifle, walks over to the desk, and picks up the satellite phone. DOP looks confused. Traoré puts the phone to his ear. "This is Captain Ibrahim Traoré, and you are making a very bad bet." He smashes the phone against the desk, shattering it. Then he turns to his tech specialist, Kedar, who has just run into the room. "Can you patch me into the national broadcast system from here right now?" Kedar looks at the sophisticated equipment in the room with this gear. "Yeah, I can override the whole network. But sir, if you do that, you're declaring open war on the general's army. There's no going back." Traoré looks at DOP, whose confident smile is finally starting to fade. "Good," Traoré says. "I'm done with secrets. Put me on air." But as Kedar starts typing, the power in the basement suddenly cuts out. Pitch black. The emergency lights don't kick in. Drone feeds die. Silence. Then from the darkness of the staircase behind them, the sound of heavy boots, lots of them, and the unmistakable rack of a shotgun. Slide. Traoré spins around. They aren't alone in the house anymore. Someone else has arrived, and they don't know whose side they're on. The beam of a tactical flashlight cuts through the darkness, blinding Traoré. He raises his hand to shield his eyes, finger tightening on the trigger. He's ready to go down fighting. He counts 6, maybe 7, figures blocking the stairs. They are heavily armed, wearing full combat gear. The room is dead silent. The only sound is the crackle of the dying fire in the trash can. "Drop the weapon, Captain." A voice booms from the stairs. Traoré doesn't move. Beside him, his 4 loyal men shift, ready to engage. General DOP, sensing a rescue, stands up straighter, adjusting his uniform. "Took you long. Enough." DOP barks at the shadows. "Arrest these traitors immediately. Shoot them. If they twitch." The figure at the front steps into the dim light of the dying. Fire. It's a young lieutenant, his face smeared with camo paint. He looks at General DOP, then looks at Traoré. He doesn't raise his rifle. Instead, he slings it over his shoulder. "With all due respect, General," the lieutenant says, his voice cold, "we didn't come for you." He turns to Traoré and snaps a crisp salute. "Sir," the barracks heard, "the rumors. We tracked your convoy. We aren't letting you fight this alone." DOP's face goes pale. He looks at the soldiers, men from his own regiment, and realizes something terrifying. He might own the generals, the politicians, and the bank accounts, but he doesn't own the soldiers. He lost the locker room. These men are tired of watching their friends die in cheap vests while DOP buys summer homes. This is mutiny, DOP screams, losing his cool for the first time. "I am your chief of staff. You're a salesman." Traoré corrects him, stepping forward. "And you're out of stock." Traoré signals his men to cuff DOP and Kassam. The dynamic in the room flips instantly. The hunters are now the prisoners, but there is no time to celebrate. Kader, the hacker, finally gets the backup generator running. The screens flicker back to life. The news is bad. The drone feeds show tanks rolling through the streets of the capital. Even without DOP giving orders, the plan is in motion. The foreign backers have activated their contingency. They are seizing the radio station, the airport, and the parliament. They are spinning a narrative on the national news right now, claiming Traoré has suffered a mental breakdown and is being removed for his own safety. Traoré watches the lie spreading across the country in real time. He sees his own face on the screen, with a wanted banner beneath it. "We have to kill the signal," Cater says, typing furiously. "I can jam their broadcast, but I can't stop the tanks." "Don't jam it," Traoré says. "Hijack it." He grabs a chair and drags it in front of the wall of monitors. He doesn't clean the soot off his face. He doesn't fix his torn uniform. He wants the people to see the reality. He grabs a handful of the half-burned documents, the bank transfers, the foreign intelligence deals, and slams them onto the desk. "Put me live," Traoré orders. "Every channel, every radio frequency now." Cater hits enter. Across Burkina Faso, television's glitch. The polished news anchor reading the propaganda freezes and the screen cuts to static. Then the image resolves. It's grainy, dark, and raw. It shows Ibrahim Traoré sitting in a basement, looking exhausted, but dangerous. Behind him, visible in the frame, is the Minister of Defense and the General of the Army, handcuffed and sitting on the floor. Traoré looks directly into the camera lens. He doesn't use a teleprompter. He speaks from the gut. "People of the homeland," he begins, his voice low and intense. "They told you I was sick. They told you I ran away. But I am here and I brought receipts." For 10 minutes, Traoré exposes everything. He holds up the papers. He names the foreign powers. He explains why the war never ends, why the roads are never built, why the soldiers keep dying. He speaks not like a president, but like a brother, a son, a soldier. He strips away the fancy lies and shows the ugly truth. "They want to take your country tonight," Traoré says, leaning into the camera. "They have the tanks, they have the money, but they forgot one thing. They forgot you." He calls on the people not to fight, but to witness, to flood the streets, to surround the tanks, not with weapons, but with presence, to show the world that this country is not for sale. "I am ready to die here tonight. Are you ready to live?" Kader cuts the feed. The room falls silent. They have thrown the dice. Now they have to wait to see where they land. For a long minute, nothing happens. The drone feeds show the tanks still moving toward the palace. Diop, sitting on the floor, lets out a small, arrogant laugh. "Huh, nice speech, Ibrahim, but speeches don't stop armor. The strike team is 5 minutes out. Yo, head." Suddenly, the drone operator gasps. "Sir, look at Sector 7. Traoré looks at the screen. On the main boulevard leading to the palace, people are pouring out of their houses. Hundreds of them, then thousands. They are walking towards the tanks. Youth, elders, women, mechanics, teachers. They are forming a human wall. The lead tank stops. It can't move without running over civilians. The hatch opens. A soldier pops his head out, looking confused. A woman hands him a bottle of water. The coup is stalling. The gears are grinding to a halt because the people threw themselves into the machine. But DOP isn't looking at the screens. He's looking at the ceiling. He hears something Traoré doesn't. A low, thumping sound approaching fast. "You think the locals are your problem?" DOP sneers. "My partners don't care about protests. They care about assets. And right now, you are a liability. They are ready to liquidate." The sound grows louder. It's not a news helicopter. It's the distinct heavy chop of a gunship. The foreign powers have decided to cut their losses. If they can't control the country, they will burn the man who exposed them. Cater looks up, eyes wide. "Sir, thermal lock detected. They're targeting the house." Traoré grabs his rifle. "Everyone out. Move to the tunnels." But as they scramble toward the back exit, the first missile hits. The Explosion tears the roof off the villa, burying the entrance in rubble. Dust and concrete rain down, trapping them in the basement. Traoré coughs, waving away the smoke, trying to do a H count. They are alive, but they are buried. And above them, the gunship is circling back for a second run to finish the job. The ceiling groans, and another chunk of concrete crashes down, narrowly missing. Cater. The air is thick with dust, tasting like copper and old drywall. Traoré coughs, wiping blood from a cut above his eye. Above them, through the gaping hole where the roof used to be, the sound of the gunship gets louder. It's swinging around for the kill shot. They are sitting ducks in a barrel. We're dead. Minister Kasem whimpers, curled up in the corner. They're going to wipe the whole site. Traoré looks at the rubble, then at General DOP. Looks terrified. He knows exactly who is flying that chopper. They are cleaners. They don't leave witnesses, even if the witness is their boss. Get up, Traoré barks, grabbing DOP by the collar of his ruined uniform. What are you doing? DOP screams. Stay down. No. Traoré says, if they want a target, let's give them one. Traoré drags the general up the pile of debris, climbing toward the open night sky. He signals his men to grab the minister. They haul the two traitors up out of the basement and onto the exposed slab of the courtyard. The spotlight from the helicopter hits them instantly, blinding and hot. The wind from the rotors whips their clothes. Traoré stands directly behind DOP, using the general as a human shield. He looks up at the dark machine hovering barely 100 feet above them. He knows the pilot has a thermal lock. He knows the pilot can see exactly who is standing there. It's the ultimate game of chicken. Does the pilot follow orders to destroy the evidence, or does he hesitate to blow up the man who signs his paychecks? DOP is screaming into the wind, waving his hands frantically. Cease fire. It's me. It's DOP. Abort. The gunship hovers. The nose cannon dips slightly. Traoré doesn't flinch. He holds his ground, staring down death. For 3 agonizing seconds, time stops. Then the engine pitch changes. The pilot blinks. Risk is too high. The gunship banks hard to the left, turning away from the villa, and disappears into the darkness of the Trian. Traoré lets go of DOP, who collapses onto the concrete, sobbing. But the silence that follows isn't empty. It's filled with a low rumble coming from the road. Traoré looks toward the front gates. The private security guards have fled, but the gates are being pushed open. Not by tanks, by people. Thousands of them. The citizens who watched the broadcast didn't just stand in front of tanks in the capital. They marched here. They marched to the ranch. They flood onto the lawn. A sea of cell phone lights swaying in the dark like fireflies. When they see Traoré standing on the rubble alive, a roar goes up that shakes the ground more than the missile did. The young lieutenant who led the mutiny steps forward, grinning through the soot on his face. Sir, he yells over the crowd. The capital is secure. The foreign units are standing down. They realize they can't fight the whole country. Traoré looks at the crowd, then down at the 2 men at his feet. The power hasn't just shifted. It has evaporated from the hands of the corrupt and returned to where it belongs. The aftermath is swift, but lawful. Traoré refuses to let the mob touch DOP or Kasem. We are not them, he tells the crowd. We don't work in the dark. The next morning, the sun rises over a different Burkina Faso. The footage of the raid, the basement confession, and the human shield moment is everywhere. It's not just news. It's a national restart. Traoré doesn't take a victory lap. He goes back to work. orders a forensic audit of the Defense Ministry. Within weeks, the money starts flowing back. The $12 million for the vests recovered from the shell companies. The consulting fees seized. 3 months later, Traoré returns to that same dusty outpost in the north. The same soldiers are there, lined up in formation. But this time, the mood is different. A convoy of trucks arrives. Traoré personally opens the first crate. He pulls out a vest. He hands it to a young private. It's heavy. It's real. Ceramic plates, reinforced stitching, top-tier ballistic protection. He watches the soldiers' gear. Up. They stand taller. They look at him not just as a commander, but as a man who kept his word. Back in the capital, the trial of DOP and Qasim is broadcast publicly. No secret tribunals. They sit in a glass box, listening as per the hacker who started it all presents the digital evidence. The network of theft is dismantled name by name, account by account. It's a slow process. It's boring, bureaucratic work. But to Traoré, watching from his office, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. He sits at his desk, the flag of Burkina Faso hanging behind him. He picks up a file on the next sector, the Ministry of Energy. He sees the same red flags, the same shell companies, the same patterns. He smiles just a little. He knows the fight isn't over. Corruption is like a weed. You pull it out, and it tries to grow back in the cracks. But now he has the weed killer. He has the truth. And he has a nation that knows how to use it. He closes the file and looks out the window at the city lights. They thought he could buy his silence. They thought he could bury him in a basement. Instead, they buried themselves. Some leaders build statues. Ibrahim Traoré built a standard. And for the corrupt elites hiding in the shadows, the message is clear. The raid wasn't the end. It was just the warning shot. If you found this story powerful, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We are digging into another investigation right now. A story about a gold mine, a missing contract, and a village that fought back. And you won't believe what they found buried under the soil. See you in the next